So we were talking about sinusoidal functions, and these are the basic ones. We got sine and cos. Eventually, we're going to be transforming these. So these are like the parent functions. Like we had parent parabolas and parent cubic functions and all that. These are the parent sine functions or sinusoidal functions. So if I were to type in the values for sine x into my calculator, the sine of 0 is 0. And I'm going to skip some because we don't need them all. You can do them if you want. The sine of 90 is 1. 180 is 0. 270 is -1. 360 is 0. And again, you can do the ones in the middle to see a more accurate picture of what it looks like. But if I graph this, my first point is 0, 0. So sine of 0 is 0. The sine of 90 is 1. 180 is 0. 270 is -1. And 360 is 0. So we get a curve that looks like this. So this is one cycle of sine x. So cycle means the pattern that is repeated over and over again. So this pattern, if I were to continue it, would keep going. Well, that was pretty terrible, but you know what I mean. It would keep going in either direction. The time it takes or the distance it takes to finish one cycle is called the period. So that just depends on what's on the x-axis. In this case, it's angles in degrees, so 0, 360, 330, 60, 90, and so on. So the period of one cycle is 360 degrees. Sometimes the x-axis will be in time or distance or something like that. So then you just measure it in whatever units it's talking about. Sine doesn't go over 1 or less than -1. There's nothing that you can put in sine of whatever to make it go over 1 or less than -1. It'll always be between 0 and 1 because this is what the graph looks like. It goes between 0 and 1. So if this is the period of this cycle, the line that goes directly between them, so in this case it's the x-axis, is called the equation of axis. So that would be your distance between, or half the distance between your maximum point and your minimum point. The distance between the max and the equation of axis is called your amplitude. Or from the equation of axis to the minimum point is your amplitude. So this is the graph of sine x. So if we do the same thing for cos x, you plug in values, you get 1. So cos of 0 is 1. 90 is 0. 180 is -1. 0, 1. So the graph of cos x looks like this. So the period is 360 still, just like sine x, because this is the cycle. The amplitude is just like the last one, it's 1, because that's the distance there, and that's the distance there, 1. So the amplitude won't be negative. Even though this goes down to -1, the distance between here and here is 1. The distance between here and here is 1. So amplitude is always positive. The equation of axis is the midpoint. So these are called sinusoidal functions because if I were to take this graph here and plot it, you can see that it looks pretty much the same. It's just shifted over. So if I shift this 90 degrees to the left, you see that it matches up exactly. So sine and cos are actually the same graph. Every sinusoidal function has both sine and cos in it. It just depends on where you're looking. But sine has the red shape and cos has the green shape. Okay.